So Sid,
Yeah,
that is going to lead us into
right,
how are you as citizens going to pay for the national debt? How
right,
is this going to happen?
right. Okay, there's different ways of answering that question. First, first I'm going to give you the simple answer. And actually, it's a correct answer at one level, but you can get somebody off alcohol for a week or a month, so you may have improved his apparent health condition this month, but if he goes back, that's not good. So you got to solve two problems. One is you got to get the person off drugs or off alcohol, and then you got to get them off permanently, which means you have to change the person, right?
Right.
So there's two things they're going to do to get rid of debt. The first thing is inflation. Now, we should have a separate talk about what the inflation rates really are. But if one really wants to understand, and they should, there's a website called, I think, shadowstats.com.
Okay.
And they explain how the inflation models, that the mathematical models that the government uses, has been changing over the past 30 years plus. And if you go back those models and study it, you're going to see that the real inflation rate right now is about 10 to 12%, has been for quite a while.
I believe it.
Okay. Now, the inflation rate used to be considered to be 0%. Now, I'm not going to digress into what the inflation rate really was. It was always way higher than that. But it was, and I knew that in the 1990s, by the way, 1990s, 2000s, I was already telling people that. Um, but right now, the formal inflation rate is 10%, 9%, something like that. In Europe and Turkey, 100%, Argentina, which is not very good, actually. But the official inflation rate's 8%. Well, when the Fed wanted to start controlling inflation in the 70s and 80s, their idea of the right inflation rate was 0%. That subsequently changed to 2%, was okay. And then it was approximately 2%. Well, that acceptable inflation rate is going to probably end up at 3%, possibly 4%. Let's say that's a good inflation rate. So the official inflation rate is going to, I would say, go to 3%, where the next Fed guy at the Fed will say, yeah, that's a good rate. That's a nice long-term equilibrium rate. It might be 4%, but it's probably 3%. That's a good number. It's 50% higher than what it used to be. But the real inflation rate is going to be 10%. At 10% inflation, take there's two kinds of national debts. There's the nominal debt, that's an accounting number, and there's the real debt. The nominal debt is 30 trillion, and the real debt's about 150, 160 trillion. But let's take the nominal debt that people talk about, the 30, 31 trillion. If you have 10% inflation, after 1 year, you've knocked off 3 trillion. After 2 years, you've knocked off 6 trillion. After 3 years, you've knocked off 10 trillion. So you've taken the debt from 30 trillion in real terms to 20 trillion. So all they need is 6 or 7 years of 10% inflation, and you've gotten rid of most of the debt. Problem solved. Now, you say, well, how about, where are they going to get that money? Let me rephrase that. If you're thinking about what I said, you're going to say, okay, well, the government keeps spending money. So if everything gets inflation adjusted, the government's going to keep spending more money, so they're going to keep catching up.